Hello, and welcome back by popular demand, the Enlightenmen. Not really. I'm your host, Nick Gula, and fellow Enlightenmen with me is John Van Hook.
Hello, everyone.
And Trevor.
Hi.
You want to say his last name?
No, he doesn't get a last name yet.
I don't have one. Well, yeah, I was born without one, actually.
Yeah, he doesn't get one until he proves himself on the Enlightenment.
Do you guys get to pick out my last name, or do I get to pick one that I like?
You can pick one if you want. Definitely can. You're in charge of your own destiny here at the Enlightenment.
Okay, all right.
You could make up a whole. You could make a whole.
I pick Gula. I want, like, when I earn it after this, I want to be Trevor Gula.
You can do that. We'll be part of the Gula tribe, the Gula gang, even better.
Sounds good. The Gula gang's solid.
Solid time. Gula gang. That's it. Well, that's what we are now.
Were you not that before? I'm pretty sure I called you guys the Gula gang at least once. If not all the crews, definitely at your house.
Well, funny you say that, because tonight's episode... Well, first of all, let's get into the thing. John, did you come up with an icebreaker? Didn't you want to do an icebreaker this time? Let's get the icebreaker out of the way, and then we'll get into this Enlightenment.
Tradition. Per tradition, we'll do the icebreaker first, the non-stoicism icebreaker. So, I've been wondering this for a while, and it's not a solid one, especially because I feel like I kind of already know your answers, but I do want to expand on it. So, the icebreaker is this: Are you guys morning people? And if you are morning people, at what point in your life would you say you became a morning person?
Nick, you want to go first, or you want me to take it?
Sure, I can go first. First of all, I feel that I never sleep anyway, so I don't know what a morning at this point in time is just an abstract for me, so it doesn't really matter. Because usually we're if we're on vacation, we're up till fucking 4 a.m, whatever. Mm-hmm. If I'm working, I'm up till 4 a.m and go to sleep at 4 a.m and wake up for 6 and do my whole day, and everything seems to blend into each other, and get sleep while you can. So, but if you were saying, if you're putting it this way, when I wake up from something, I would say no, because my body, I just need that time for myself to get up, actually get up, and I need a little bit of space in there to get my shit together, before I head out for the day.
How long is that buffering period, though? Would you say, I'd say if it's over 30 minutes, then yeah, you're definitely not a morning person.
It's got to be around 45, probably.
Ooh, you're just over the mark, Gula. I'm sorry.
45.
Yeah, I don't know if I could say you're a morning person. You're like borderline morning guy.
Yeah.
Trev?
I definitely enjoy the morning. I gotta admit, on days where I work, no, I hate the morning. Every time, I mean, 5 out of 5 days that I have to go to work, I wish it was still night when it's morning. But I think in general, if I don't have to go to work, or if I've got nothing going on, I adore the morning. I like getting up before the sun. I like watching the sunrise. I like drinking a coffee. I think when I went to visit my parents in Oklahoma a couple of years ago, and Oklahoma's a lot like Arizona, where you can just see for miles and miles and miles in one direction, and I liked waking up. I had an alarm that would get me up right before the sunrise. I'd go make a cup of coffee. I'd throw on Stardust by Willie Nelson. It's one of my favorite albums, and that. Like those three, and then watching that sunrise, it's incredible, and the rest of the day just pales in comparison. I love the morning, but when I have responsibilities, the morning's like something I dread. So there's some give and some take. And I think I've always kind of been that way. I think I've always liked waking up early. I like, my dad would go hunting when I was young, and I really loved, like, even when I wasn't going with him, I would like just waking up and watching him get all his gear together and feeling it's like cold outside, and I don't know, it just feels like a different little world,
And without the morning, you can't have a wake and bake.
That's true.
That's
huge.
True. Yeah, that's
So-
huge.
Well, I don't know. There's two requirements for a wake and bake, and that's just that you have to wake up, and then so I guess you could still wake and bake without the morning if you're
Very scientific of you.
a mess of a
Yeah, but
person
I feel
waking
I
up
feel
at
a wake and bake
4 p.m.
is definitely better when it's like in the morning before anybody wakes up and you smoke that first joint after
the
a
sun
long
gets up.
8-hour sleep.
I might have to experiment with a couple different wake and bakes then. I might have to mess
Yeah,
around a little.
Let's do an
some
experiment,
research.
like just like wake up at like 4 in the afternoon and be like, where the fuck am I? What day is it? And then smoke,
Yeah.
and then or go away or
Disorienting.
It's in the name of everything's okay in the name of science, John.
Oh, sure.
We're gathering empirical evidence.
Right.
we're doing this for future generations.
Yeah, so
all right,
they know.
John. So they know what's good, what the do's and don'ts of the morning.
We put in the work so they don't have to. Think about all we're doing. So,
Thank you. they didn't see. You did a little Riz face there. I appreciate you.
yeah, no, I got a couple of visual gags up my sleeve to make you guys laugh and no one else.
I can't wait to. I'm gonna have to call every one of them out. I can't wait. I would say I'm now a morning person. I definitely was not always a morning person, but I think biologically I've shifted. Just relative to my own situation in life. So I never liked getting up for school. I don't think anyone does. But in the summertime, I have to say, when you eliminate that school thing, there was something really special about waking up before the sun, or waking up, like, at least in Iowa in the mornings in the summertime. It would be really cool in the night, and then the sun would come up and warm everything. And so in the spots where the sun was, it would be like almost a 10 to 15 degree temperature difference to just like a shadow. So that was probably one of my favorite parts about going out early in the morning in the summer, was like hopping between the hot spots and almost kind of like laying out like a cat would in the sun. And also because back then, like, my dad would be at work, my mom would sleep until like noon, and my brothers would be either asleep or off doing something. So it was also my time to be by myself. So there was a brief time in my life. Yeah, there's a brief time when I was a morning guy, but only in the summertime. And then around high school, getting a job and shit like that, I could not stand waking up. Obviously, I talked previously about I would sleep in and not make it to my first period, and I think around the time I had a kid, obviously you have to you got to wake up a lot for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Would you say, John, that we have that to thank the motorcycle guy?
No. The motorcycle guy, he truly, no pun intended, but he truly did throw a wrench in it. As a loose pun. I'm still say it's not intended. It might have been intended a little bit. I'm sorry. Pun intended, guys. I'm sorry. That was a pun. But yeah, he did throw a wrench in the situation that was already like established. So I wouldn't say he started like anything.
So he solidified it. He was the end. He was the final straw.
No,
on
if
the camel.
anything, he just conflicted it more, because like what I'm trying to say is, like, I've started to become a morning guy, and he took that shit away from me because of what he was doing. I was then fighting for every bit of sleep I could get, and then I wasn't joyful to wake up at any point at that point, because then I was like a lack of sleep. I was irritated about the motorcycle.
You fucked up your whole day.
Yeah. It was a total butterfly effect. But I gotta say, if Trevor sets the vibe, he's always done that. He's got a long-standing notoriety for fucking setting a vibe. But I love his scenic idea of the coffee and the early morning sun, and so I think I try to capture that as much as I can in the morning. Even like when it comes to work days, I try not to be so grumpy and groggy about it, because I feel like that's just like, it's not helping anybody.
Right. Yeah. No. It's very. It's very. I mean, I try to. I'm not as good about it as I should be, and I'm kind of aware of that in the moment, but not as aware as I could be. But how you start your morning really does affect like how you, like if you can choose to have a good morning, you can choose to have a good day, and I'll often be like on my drive to work and thinking about the things that are just making me angry, things that are making me mad, and then realizing during my 35-minute commute that I'm like, oh, I'm setting myself up to have an awful day, and I kind of have to. I think you kind of have to make an effort to take control of your morning and make that your time, because otherwise. Otherwise, it's going to feel like your day was stolen from you.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're choosing that.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of times I do feel like if I do have that grumpiness, I feel like a victim of that, because it's like you look back and you're like, all I did today was be pissed about today. That's
exactly.
not really useful. And it's such a weird shift too. Like when you think about it, when you get on board, and then if you have that ability to look back. With a different perspective and realize that you were wasting all that time. It's so funky to think about it. Like, I'm choosing to be okay with being a morning person. And it's also kind of like how Gula put it. Einstein said that the time is relative. It really doesn't matter if it's 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. I'm just going to get up. I'm going to rest when I need to rest and get up when I want to get up and do what I need to do.
Right.
So when you put yourself in that time frame, sure, nobody wants it to be 9 a.m. and you're going into work and you have to be here for hours. But also, I get to work and then I'm like, I'm going to grab a slice of pizza and I'm going to fucking, do this. And
yeah, but what if your morning is... What if you work third shift and your morning's fucking 9 o'clock at night? And you get up at...
Well, I think then you're definitely a morning person at that point, because then you're off work at that point.
Well, what is a morning at that point? It's just a time... Time is just a construct that we make to justify,
Which is exactly why Wake and Bake has to only hinge on on when you're waking up, right?
Yeah.
Time's
Exactly.
that relative.
Yeah. Not only because I think the majority of people who work.
We'll get back to you on that one. We're gonna do that experiment over and over and over again.
All right, yeah, for sure.
We gotta do peer review. So I'm gonna need you guys to do the same thing so we can get the same results.
Yeah, we can compare our data.
Yeah,
I think when you work third shift, the only morning you have is the morning of the loss of free time that you have because you're working and then sleeping all day.
11 to 7 and then fucking sleeping. I work second shift and I never thought of it. Like I actually like second shift. I could wake up at like 8 o'clock and still have all the way till 3 p.m. to get to where I'm thinking, and then I get out at fucking 11, and then whatever.
Yeah, it's not bad.
You have that time to go to. It's not that bad. It's actually a good shift,
Yeah, I used to work second shift like a year ago, and I enjoyed. There was a strong part of me that liked waking up at 8 or 9 and then getting everything I needed to. The only I think the only difficulty was when it came to like chores and things I needed to get done. Like taking my car into the shop or something like that. I didn't feel like... I always felt like I never had time for that because I was still waiting around to go to work all day,
Yeah.
Well, I work from Tuesday to Saturday, so Mondays were my days to do that, right? So I had Mondays off, so I would, everything's open at that point, and then you had Sunday and Monday, so Sunday you could just reset yourself and say, hey, tomorrow, I'm going to go to bed at this time, so tomorrow I can wake up and I can go boom, 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 boom,
Yeah. I worked those exact same days too. That's solid.
I hope my icebreaker was absolutely exhilarating for you, ladies and gentlemen, listening to this wonderful podcast.
No,
but that's enough of that, I think, for now.
Well, no,
please
speak a little bit more. Can I just take a minute to speak a little bit more? Because I had one more thing to add. You were talking about how you were talking
He
about
held
how,
up a box of minute rice. That was the joke.
Yeah, but I wanted to mention this film that I had seen. I really like this movie. It's called About Time. Have you guys ever seen it?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so just a quick. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna ruin it. Don't worry about it. Sorry about that. But it just real quick synopsis. Like the premise is it's this guy Domhnall Gleeson, this actor, and the men in his family have the ability to time travel. Right, they can time travel back through their own life only, and they just don't mess anything up. And that's like the premise of the movie, and then it follows this guy as he like navigates young adulthood and like meets a woman, falls in love, and like starts to live his life. And for a while, he's like going back and trying to correct all of his mistakes, and then gets to the point where by the end of the movie, he's like, I used to just go back and relive every single day twice, so that way the first time I'd go through without like with all the anxieties and the nervousness and the anger and frustration that comes with the day to day. And then the second time, I would go and relive that day, knowing that everything was just going to be okay by the end of it, knowing how everything was going to play out. And then I could enjoy all these little moments with my friends, with my wife, with my kids, knowing that it was just, without all of this hanging over my head of like, how's this work project going to turn out? And then he said, he's like, and now I don't even do the time traveling at all because I've just gotten used to waking up and then just living each day with this appreciation, with this hope that it's just going to be all right. And then I enjoy these moments with my friends, and I enjoy these moments with my wife and my kids, and the times that I have to myself. It took him, like his whole lifetime, but he got to the point where he was like, I can just choose to enjoy my day. I can choose to wake up and really like embrace everything that I'm going through, whether it's good or bad, regardless of any of that. And I felt like that was connecting a little bit earlier to what we were talking about.
Yeah, I really like that.
About kind of making a conscious decision to have a good day.
Kind of perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about today. And I figured we'd touch on the subject of death. I know that's a great thing, but as everybody knows, we've dealt with a bunch of death in our lives, and kind of said it. The person that did this first, Jeffrey Parker, passed away. Remembrance of him, we're going to continue doing this, and we came with the premise of doing parts of Stoicism, right? Picking something. The first one was duality, and I figured, why not? Let's tackle this whole thing in a Stoic way and kind of look back at things and just put them in perspective. And that was a perfect segue because living to the fullest is kind of where you have to be in this life, because you only got one of them. So, and we're all gonna die. So when you're looking back in your life,
would you say, if you were to die at this moment in time, would you say that you would be completely comfortable with that?
Yes.
You would leave this. You would shake this mortal coil, and flutter off, feeling absolutely satisfied with how you left.
Yes.
Well.
100%. And the reason why is I live my life with no regrets, right? I just keep you got to move on, and things happen, and it is what it is, and you just got to take day by day. I'm at 45, and right now I'm in the danger zone, because from here now till if I'm lucky, 80 years old would be the lucky part about it. Only got 40. I'm on the back nine, so that's kind of why I did this. We did this pod, because fuck it, right?
No, totally. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear I'm part of your victory lap.
Definitely, yeah.
What's great to hear about that too is, while we did lose Jeff, and we had such a special thing to have his one of his, like Trevor pointed out, probably one of his last most impactful conversations that he had with people that he knew and cared about. And we have that forever, just like a token that we can take with us as long as the internet remains. I don't know. I might have to get it like burned into like a vinyl or something.
Yeah, we gotta put that down and record it somewhere.
But
on a phone, on a flip phone that you're gonna pull out in 2072.
What I love so much about it is he touched. It's like it sucks. It sucks that he can't be here on this pod with us anymore. I'm so honored to have Trevor here. I think he is a great fit for that third man on here. But obviously, ideally, we want Parker to be that third man. But even without him being here, he already touched on the whole death thing in the first pod, and he touched it so beautifully that it's almost as if he was the only person in existence that knew that he was going to die the next day. The way he just put such a bow on his own life and basically said that exactly, just like, if I died, if I bit the dust right now, I
think he said, if I walked down the middle of the street and got hit by a bus, you know, and that could literally happen, you know, tomorrow. And it was fucking nuts because he didn't get hit by a bus, but he did have an aneurysm the next day. So that was pretty accurate on predicting, you know, your death.
And what a better way to get over his death than his own words telling me about how nice death is. Like it's like a part of life, and it's so natural, and it's just something that we need to come to accept. I couldn't have asked for a better person to be soothing me with those words.
Yeah, he knew. He knew. He knew. You know, he was a student of Stoicism, and he, you know, when he talked and when he, you know, articulated himself, you could see it. You could see that he, you know, just the things that he did, the amazing, you know, not, you know, death is kind of a situation with the living, right? When you're dead, it really doesn't matter, right? It's more for the people that are reminded of you, and that, you know, they say, like, the last, you know, when is the last time that you're truly dead? When the last person remembers your name or speaks your name or whatever. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, more than likely, you know, if there's anything that it's totally not going to be what you think it's going to be anyways. You can't go back. You can't, like, communicate or think. So really, death is a way for human beings to kind of, like, just get over something, to grieve that grieving process. And it's more for the living than it is for the dead. Which sucks, because then we're left. It's kind of what we're left with, the grief and the pain. So
yeah, it's like one of the only definites that we have in life. You hear that the only thing that's constant in life is change. But when you think about what's one of the most absolute things in life I can think about, and it's probably there's almost nothing more absolute than death.
Imagine you died. What would happen? The same thing that would happen anyways without you in it. Like, things would just
okay,
keep
yeah.
going
So now we're
on.
getting on some new
Right.
territory here.
I remember I think my first and really only major experience with death was my best friend, and that was actually a really big hurdle for me to get over. Was which I know is not uncommon, but was the idea that things just keep going. Because I felt very strongly that, like, shouldn't the whole world be kind of put on pause for this? You know, shouldn't everything just kind of stop for this? This is, like, the real deal.
Yeah.
Not how it works, unfortunately.
Yeah. It just, the next fucking, we say it all, we make fun of it all the time at work. Like, if you die tomorrow, they'd kick your ass right into the middle of the lake and keep going. Just keep on going. The fucking cog's gonna be made. It's just gonna, yeah, it sucks for the, you know, the people that, you know, knew you, but a week later, man, shit's gonna just keep, you just gotta keep going. It's just, life just goes on, and you just reminded of that, hey, we're not immortal, and we need to every time that I hear somebody like dies or something like that, and I've had a lot of death in my life. My father, Jeff, countless people have died in my, close to me, and the most famous one is Granny Gula, Granny Gula guy. I told that story before about the her not believing in ghosts, but and the fact that she she told me straight up. She told me, listen, when I die, I don't want you to cry. I don't want you to do any of that shit. I'm dead. I'm gone. I want you to be happy, and I want you to fucking move on with your life, guy. And that day that we put her in the ground, it was surreal, because me and my father were standing there, just stoic, just not thing. And this lady was big in my life. She raised me from little. Like, my parents had to work a lot, and she was there. She was that person, and it was like, but she said, listen, it's fucking, I'm gone. There's nothing you're gonna do about it. That's it, guy. And for you to sit there and just fucking waste time on that situation.
So were you able to
pointless.
stick with
So,
that pun intended? Were you able to stick with that sort of stoic feeling, or did you feel like you could hold it off for the remainder of like what was her death and her funeral, and then with time, was there residuals, or do you think it helped you accept that
of
better?
course, you think back. I feel that the way, I mean, she drilled this into me. This isn't something that she shed the shit all the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't
at
a
the
one-off.
end. It was like, this
Started
wasn't like,
spitting
you
right
don't
before
think
the grave.
she like,
It's like, damn, where was this her whole life?
but no, she instilled it in both of us, me and my father. Like this is, it. And then my uncle died 6 months
Ooh,
later, man.
real close.
So it's real close. So these are the people that like I grew up with, but it was I bawled at that one. I couldn't fucking, my Uncle Mike. It was just like I had to let it all go, and it probably was residual from my grandmother.
I imagine.
That part of my life. Because they lived together like that. They were together forever. You know what I'm saying? My uncle and my grandmother were like synonymous with each other. So when I could hold it off till then, and at his funeral, forget it. I was like, just let it all go. I had to let it all go.
So what not to like overshadow any, because obviously they all have their own impacts on you, but death can show strange sides of people. It can do weird things to you, and kind of like you said, certain deaths can have bigger impacts for weird reasons. Like, you were able to keep it together for your grandma, but then when it came to your uncle, it was a different story. So out of your whole life, what do you say was the death that probably had the biggest impact on you in a way that you really couldn't stop the reaction? Like, you had a lot of whiplash from that death.
Gotta be my Grandma Gula. I'm telling you, that's the fucking top of the line, man.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, that's just.
Well, okay. Well, so was that like probably after your uncle? Then was probably when it went really downhill, or was it downhill straight from Granny Gula?
No, I think it was.
And what was the downhill part? Like, what was the part that?
What do you mean?
That was, the negative repercussions. Like, what?
I was already a mess
at
that. I was already
spiral?
I was already a mess, guy. I couldn't. You're saying like that impacted my life, where I was. I was already a fucking mess at that point, anyways. Smoking fucking crack, guy. I was selling fucking drugs, massive amounts of drugs, fucking just doing whatever the fuck I wanted, whenever the fuck I wanted to. I was a mess at that point already, So like I can't
Okay,
pinpoint.
so Granny Gula was like gasoline on
Yeah,
a fire.
I was more like the fucking redwood forest was on fire, guy, they like you know, that was it was kind of nothing. It was nothing because my at that point my fucking life was a mess anyways.
It was like the justification you needed to really just kind of let yourself go.
Oh yeah, definitely smoke more crack. Definitely.
So, I guess I just asked that question mostly because obviously first of all, you're not like that now, which I know you've had your lows, and I'm sure that some of the bigger deaths in your family are
my father, forget it.
To those
my
lows.
father was a tough one.
But the other side of that aisle, we got Trevor Valenzuela, someone who is in my eyes, he's one of my pillars. He's a stoic hero. He's you know, he's on the same list as Jeffrey Parker when it comes to people in my life that I would look up to for advice, and just absolutely marvel at the way he reacts to certain situations in life. So when it comes to death, I mean, like, he might have said that he hasn't had that many deaths in his life, certainly not as much as you, because we've both lived such shorter lives, but he had a very close death, and I feel like while he didn't run off doing crack and stuff like that, he had a very I don't know, I don't want to say it's a good reaction to his best friend dying, but I feel like he took it in a very healthy way, in a way that made me think like, oh, when something bad happens in your life, you don't have to turn to absolute self-destruction. You don't have to, like, you know, it can be like a you know, I feel like it's almost like death is like an explosion of someone's life. It's like their story explodes into a million pieces, but with the way he treated his best friend passing, it was almost like it was just like the period on the sentence. The sentence began, there was a middle, there was an end, they put the period on it, and it was beautiful. It was grammatically correct. Everybody read it, enjoyed it.
Right. And yeah, I wish it was a novel and not a short story.
Oh man,
you know,
well said.
But at the end of the day, I do, when I look at Weston's life, I do kind of feel like he got to he almost got like everything that you're supposed to, you know. And there was a lot of times where and I talked about this at his funeral actually, there were a lot of moments where I thought he was being ridiculous, like when he proposed to Anna and they started, you know, they got engaged and they started planning their wedding, and I was like, dude, you're 21, you know, like, no way.
Yeah.
Let's wait a bit, let's chill out. But then they got to, you know, he went to college and he got his all 4 years, and he you know, he got his bachelor's degree and he lived with her, and he got to go out with he got his college experience and he got to live with the love of his life, and they got to talk about they didn't get to start a family. It's heartbreaking he never got to be a father, but at the end of the day, I think like most of the stuff that you're looking to check off, especially when you're like a young man, when you're like, okay, someday I'm gonna have an education, I'm gonna have a lot of fun, and I'm gonna have stability with you know, a person that I love. He did kind of get all of that. He got like a little dash of each of those things, whereas for other people that lasts you know, a couple decades. For him, it, you know, would last a couple of years for each of them, but he did get most of it, and he got to see a lot of that, and yeah,
that is pretty true. It's almost like he checked out where a lot of men fear they have already peaked and things are going to start getting bad. Like he got all the stuff off of, not all the stuff, but a good bit off of his list, and there was just like peace.
Yeah, I do feel like I've handled his death pretty well. I think I spent a lot of my life feeling like I was like because I went so long without experiencing anything like that. I have 3 of my 4 grandparents are still alive, and the
Wow.
one that died I hadn't talked to in over a decade. So it's like I always felt like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and that it was going to be devastating because I had gone so long without it. And then I feel like when Weston died, my gut instinct was, obviously I had like my initial like mourning period where it was very I would kind of just start crying sometimes, and like ugly crying and like snotting and it's not fair and all this. And but after a couple of weeks, I got to the point where I could just live my life and then just try to make some space for him. The place I was working at the time had these two ponds behind the building, with like geese would come nest in the pond and you'd see some animals, whatever. And so I like to go on my break, go hang out at the ponds, and I would talk to I would just talk to him, as if he was there. And it's I don't know why I associated that place with him, but it was just about making space for that, just taking a second, taking a minute to clear everything off my plate for a second and say, okay, but this hour is for hanging out with my best friend, even if it's just me doing the hanging out, and that was just so helpful. It still is, because I still do that all the time. I'll put on like a movie that we both like to watch. I think the Universal Godzilla movies are they're not really good, but I would watch them with him. So I like throwing a picture of him up and then throwing those on when a new one comes out. It's awesome. Like I'm watching it with him. That is, and I think it's just, obviously it's my way of like coping and handling that and kind of trying to pretend like he's still here, like I'm still, like I can still feel him. But like Gula was saying earlier, a lot of stuff that you do in grief is way more for the living than it is for the dead. So, it helps me, so I have no shame.
Oh, I find myself all the time. We used to do those sayings on fucking, like, every single day, and I find myself, bringing those sayings back and just, remembering that, even though it's hard, it's like, we did get those good times together, and actually JB called me up the other day, and he was like, yo, I'm thinking about like when we did those golf outings and shit like that, and playing video games, and just thinking about you, and it brings it all back. And it's like kind of like you just think about, man, that just sucks. This summer kind of, you're not going to be able to do that, that it's gone. That's really it's going to be a hard situation. But with my father, I didn't the last time I watched the Super Bowl other than this year was probably like 2017, like the year after him, because we used to watch it all together, and it was like, without him, it just felt weird not like watching it. But I just watched it the other day, and it just, I was just thinking, it just made me think about him, just like, oh shit, this would be cool to fucking to be fucking here, and just thinking what he would say about the game and the halftime show and shit like that. Those times always happen. It never goes away. It never goes away. For some reason, it just never goes away. You're always thinking about those people that are gone in your life, that were monumental, and you just think back, because I think it's just because, like I said, if you like, I truly believe the last time somebody's truly dead is the people that when the people that knew them utter their name the last time. So it's like, as long as you keep that memory alive, they're still there, going on.
Right.
Yeah, my mom likened it to like a scab, like a permanent scab, where it'll crust over and you'll kind of forget it's there sometimes, but every now and again you'll snag it on something, it'll start bleeding, and it'll scab over, but you just kind of got to let it bleed and sit there for a second.
Yeah.
I like that metaphor.
She echoed that same sentiment, where like that it just never goes away. She had my biological father, who she was only married to for a few years, and it ended really badly. It ended with him like cheating on her, and they were getting a divorce, and then he got in a car accident. And this was, I was 2 months old, so it doesn't like hang on me. I'm not like, oh my god, I miss him, because I didn't know him. But she said she found his yearbook, and this was like last year when she was moving stuff to Oklahoma. She's had 4 children and a life with my dad, my I guess my stepdad, but my dad, and she has she's got this whole life, and she's like, and then she was telling me that she found my biological dad's yearbook, and just saw all these messages that that his friends had said to him, and like all this hope for his life. And she was like, even though things ended so badly between us, and even though everything happened the way it happened, like I just felt that grief come back of like, man, I still lost, like of what I lost, you know. And I think it's I kind of think that's a little beautiful. I think I ran that through. I ran that past a couple of people that I know, and some of them were saying like, "Oh, dude, I wouldn't feel that way at all if things ended the way they did." You know, oh, that guy was a scumbag. Why is she feeling that way? But I found that
it's so easy to say that from the outside, though. It's so easy to say, but when you're in that moment, when you feel the way about somebody, it's
totally different.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to try to explain what love is and how love feels and what it'll make you do, because I'll fail. But I think that's a really good example of it. So it's so easy to say that.
Yeah, but you gotta go through those things to get to the point where you're thinking. If you didn't go through those experiences, then are you truly that person that you are today? If you didn't go through those trials and tribulations.
Right. I've recently had a couple of instances. When I was talking when I was visiting John in Iowa a couple weeks ago. I was talking to him a lot about this, where like someone really close to me was talking about how they were just saying some stuff regarding Weston's death, and how we should kind of, everyone involved should kind of be like over it and moved on by now. And I felt a lot of anger about that for a while, but really recently I've really come around to thinking like, oh, well, this person has not experienced major death, and so they're not going to get it until they get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not going to, until they feel that, they're not going to get it. And the worst thing in the world for me would be to sit here and hope that they feel that, because it's not great. So someday they will, and if I'm still around and I'm still, hanging around them, then I'll at least have the empathy to be like, look, before I went through that, I felt very much the same way. I can kind of provide this no harsh feelings type of thing. But it's very much like when someone hasn't experienced that, they'll probably say some ignorant stuff, and I think I was guilty of it. I was definitely guilty of it for a while, just because I didn't know what it felt like to feel that. And essentially, you don't get it till you get it. And so I hope people don't get it. Everyone will at some point, but I guess the longer that you can go without
death and taxes. That's it. It's the only two constants in this life is death and taxes. You're definitely gonna die.
It takes a whole lot of empathy to come to that perspective, which, not to just absolutely verbally slobber all over you, but these are the reasons I'm like, Trevor's gotta be on the Enlightenment. These are the reasons I go to you time after time and look up to you so much, is because you don't get that reaction from the average person. You don't get the reaction to automatically be like, well, maybe they don't understand, maybe they just need some time and patience. You usually get met with ignorance, is generally met with malice, and I understand that's the way the world is, but when you find somebody who isn't like that, you got to keep them around. So, and I think we can do almost kind of like a I'm gonna ask for help from the Nick Gula time comedian a little bit, because we have someone who is well into their, not to call you an old man or anything.
I'm a super old man.
I'm
crusty,
into their life,
and I've lived 3 lifetimes. Go ahead, John.
And is full of wisdom. And then we have someone who is just a year behind me, maybe less, some change. I'm not really sure on the math. It's about a year. But someone I find absolutely vastly wise and empathetic. Both of these people, through trial and error and empathy, have figured out how to have someone die in their life and it doesn't completely destroy them. So as someone who struggles with that concept exactly, I've had not too many deaths. I'm glad to say, like, some people have a lot of deaths. I haven't had that many. I count Weston. I did know Weston, and I didn't know him as much as I would have liked to, but I loved him in my own way, and I loved his life. He was definitely someone that I could
Yeah.
appreciate and love. And so when he passed, I feel like I mourned him on a couple levels. I mourned him as your friend, Trevor, and then of course I mourned him on my own individual level, and then I mourned him for. As a married man who loves a woman, I mourned for his spouse, for him. So it was all these different levels, and then of course there's Parker, which had its layers to it, and then a couple years before that, my friend Isaiah took his own life, and that one wasn't my first death, but it was the first one that was like, ooh, this one's a little kooky because he like Trevor being a year behind me, he was to the day a whole year ahead of me. We had the same birthday. I've talked about that before. So, we were very close and had so many vast similarities. And I was just talking to my other friend who also knew Isaiah. I was just talking to her about this the other day, that I was thinking, like, sometimes I'm afraid, not really afraid, but morbidly curious, I guess is a better way to put it. Sometimes I'm morbidly curious when I think about suicide, if I'm ever getting remotely close to how Isaiah felt. Because when someone like that takes their own life and you don't really know why, you don't know what they were thinking in that moment. They didn't explain it through and through, or maybe I don't know. I haven't done the research. I haven't talked to people that were close to him when he went. I have a whole thing about it where I'm very distant from it. But anyway, a lot of unanswered questions. So I think about it a lot, and I think, like, I wonder what it was for such a guy like that got him to that point. So when I think about stuff like that, it's hard to, I guess what I'm saying is hard to not attach onto negative things. You guys are so attached to, like, the Super Bowl, and I talked to Weston at this little pond, and I'm like, I wonder what the exact thought it was that set this guy over the edge, and so I can, like, maybe see it like a road, like a traffic cone in the road, and, like, swerve around it or something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I that's a whole big long tangent. I'm big on tangents, but that's a whole big long tangent, I guess, of asking both of you if you could tell me any advice, or the audience, I guess, if they relate to my thing, on how to not constantly be self-destructive and see it in a negative light, and really just, like, get to that, there's stages of grief. Get to that stage of grief where you're doing that, remembering in a good light, and you're moving on.
Well, I think it's hard in that situation, probably because it was such a negative way that it happened. But again, at the end of the day, if he didn't take his life and he did live, a long thing, it wouldn't have mattered anyways. Because again, time is just a construct. Maybe why dwell on that one negative thing. I think is where thing. Just think about the times that you did have with him, right? Did have with that person, and don't blame yourself for any of that. Sometimes people just have to go through that, and that's just the way that they process things. And unfortunately, that ends up being, they take their own lives. I've known a couple of people that have taken their own lives, and it doesn't make sense. That's the whole point. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. A lot of people out there, they say they're gonna kill themselves, but those are the people that ain't really gonna kill themselves, right? The person that kills themselves is the person that does it, right? So
That's
they say
solid. Yeah,
they. I mean, it's
up.
just something. So it's just, you're not gonna make sense of it. It's not your fault. There's nothing you could have done to prevent that, because if he wanted to these people wanted to live, they would have reached out, right? People, they would have said, hey, this is this is happening to me. I want to live, and you got to just take it at that, and just think of the good times, I guess, the good times that you had with that person, and hone on that stuff.
Yeah, and I think in the way of like you said, like seeing, because you asked in your own life if you could see like a traffic cone, this sort of like point of no return, or this sort of like thing that you might get snagged on that might derail you and cause you to go down that path. I think for me, I it's like a practice. Positivity is practice makes perfect. Because I get low, I definitely have my fair share of bad days and bad moments. But I think, and I, both in the Wannabeez and the first episode of the Enlightenmen, J.A. Parker touched on the same idea a little bit, but
Power of positivity, baby.
The power of positivity, yeah, it's really like implementing that in all of your little everything you do every single day, I think is really important. So that way, when you do come to the traffic cone, you can still hit it without it derailing your car. But if you're swerving, I don't know. I'm not gonna try and I don't think I'm gonna stick with that analogy because I can't quite make it work for everything that I have to say. But
is it because
the
your dad
point
died
is,
in a car
I think
accident?
how you do one thing. It's very harrowing for me.
You're like,
actually,
can we just not talk about cars?
that one's harder for me to talk about than Weston. No, but I think
But
how
I'm
you do
pumped.
one thing is how you do everything. So if you're whether you're like looking at your morning coffee going cold, or you're dealing with something major like like a grandparent in the hospital, or a parent in the hospital, or something like that, you have to practice beating any sort of situation like that with positivity, and if not positivity, at the very least, like a confidence in your ability to face that adversity, and then another thing is I think a lot of people kind of create like an echo chamber within themselves when they experience something bad, where then they feel bad about that bad thing, and then they punish themselves for feeling bad about it, for feeling anxious or scared for a situation. And I was just talking to a guy at the bar about this last night, where it's like it's so silly that it's such a common human reflex to punish yourself for feeling anxious about a situation, or for getting upset over something upsetting. Like then you start to be like, well, shouldn't I have been better about that? I think it's really important to know how you are, how humans operate, and then accept that when things are kind of going sour, you're still in control. You're still being a person. And so, I'm gonna pick that traffic cone metaphor back up. I think it's okay to hit it sometimes because your car can take it. And sometimes people swerve around it, or they hit it and they lose control of the car because they're convinced that
This is the end.
their car
Yeah,
couldn't
this
take
is
it.
the
Yeah.
end.
So
Not a little bit of a non sequitur, but you just saying that we're gonna come back. I
We have
promise.
first of all, we have one thing to do though. We do have one thing to do for the first episode after Jeff's death.
Yeah.
And that is go see, go read, go buy J.A. Parker,
Savage Compassion.
Savage Compassion. Go buy it on Amazon. Go follow him on all his stuff. J.A. Parker art.
You can get,
At J.A. Parker art.
soft cover or hard cover. I recommend the hard cover. It holds up a little better. It looks awesome. Great
Go get
stuff
it.
in there.
Get it out there. Great book. I use
have
it
a
all the
soft
time.
The whole traffic
In my
cone
life.
metaphor thing reminded me. Isaiah, the guy who we're talking about, my friend that took his life. One time
Yeah.
we were working together at Hy-Vee, and he sent me. He like got off before I did, and I remember he sent me a Snapchat, and I opened it. It was a video, and he was driving along the highway, and he. I imagine he already knew what he was gonna like. He obviously knew what he was gonna do, but he already thought it was so funny even before he did it, because the video started off with him laughing so hard, and he's going along the highway, and those really, really tall, thin traffic cones like that you see in like construction areas.
Yeah, those are like
Yeah,
a
he was
cylinder.
next to those, and he just like put his phone almost out the window, and he just slowly merged into the cones and just and he's just like pissing himself laughing, and then it made me almost piss myself laughing because I'm like, what is he doing? That's
There you
so
go.
funny.
So there's a memory that you to hang on
Yeah,
to.
you know what? That memory should serve as a perfect euphemism or metaphor, or whatever, or like a sign for the advice that Trevor gave me. That maybe you know what? Maybe you're right. I can hit that traffic cone, and it is a lot. Yeah, I have a huge confidence problem. I'm glad you point that out. It's about having the confidence in your own ability, because I know I have positivity. I can be optimistic. I give people advice all the time, but then when it comes to applying it to yourself, it's always very difficult. So I know I have confidence and I use it all the time, and I can be confident, but sometimes it's a little hard to trick yourself in the moment. So but that's what I'm all about, is those little interactions, like in the moment. Can I catch myself in the moment? And I love those momentary interactions. So it just gives me one more thing to think about there. So I love that. That's perfect advice from both of you guys. It's like positivity saturation. I need to not like toxic positivity, but also like remembering what I learned from Parker, remembering what I learned from Trevor, remembering what I learned from Marcus Aurelius and Gula, and not just like being like, oh, that's a fun, cool quote, and then like storing it in my head, like actually putting it into play. I think that's something that I am a little bit challenged with at times because I'm like, yeah, it's solid. I know all that stuff. It's great. And then I turn around and I'm the same old jackass.
I adore that you listed Marcus Aurelius as like
yeah. Oh, Mark?
like me, Parker, Gula,
Mark,
of course,
yeah.
Marcus Aurelius.
Are you kidding me?
The friend group.
Really?
So usually we bring out quotes, and I thought this quote would be perfect for tonight.
Hell yeah.
And I didn't know what we were going to talk, how this pod was going to play out. So this is one of my favorite quotes, and it is from Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. To be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over, it stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. And I thought that's one of my favorite quotes out of that book.
That is also one of my favorite quotes. So it touches me a lot that's the one that you picked.
And we didn't plan this, right, John?
No,
we didn't plan
not
this.
at all.
I just totally brought this thing out of a thing, and I thought that would be a thing. And it kind of goes, what we were saying, just you got to be in those times, right? You got to be that rock that the waves just hit you over and over and over again, but just know the rock's going to be okay for the next storm. We're at the hour mark. I guess we could potentially end this.
We'll start.
I don't even know how we would end this.
Well, I have a couple different ideas.
Ooh.
On how we can end this. My first initial idea, which is one we won't go with, but it deserves an honorable mention. I really loved my favorite part out of all the parts in the episode 1 of Enlightenment. My favorite part's at the end when I'm like, Parker, can you come up with like an end tagline? Like, we need a snappy tagline. And he delivers one of the best 2-minute speeches I've ever heard out of his mouth. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not really a tagline, but yeah, it's awesome. So my original idea was to try to write that, go back, listen, and then write that down word for word and then recite it for you here on this pod. But unfortunately, I did not do my homework. But, let's not do a diminishing returns thing, because I also would love to give our third podsman today and our guest and Enlightenmen the opportunity to say what he would like to say about death, stoicism, and all things enlightening as we end the pod. But before we do that, is there anything you want to cover before we go out, Gula?
Nope. Sounds like a plan to me.
Okay. Well, we did the ad. we did the icebreaker. We talked about death in so many fashions and facets, and how to deal with it. Thank you so much, Trevor, for your second appearance on this pod channel and your first appearance on Enlightenment. Like I said,
Trevor.
When I think of stoic people, I'm like, he's one of the top 5. He's easily an enlightened man. So thank you so much for being here.
Dude, of course. No, yeah, I'm happy you asked me to be on. I've had a lot of fun today. Sorry if you hear my roommate's dog. He speaks. But I guess in the way of like closing remarks, I do kind of feel like I said a lot of what I had to say regarding death and kind of how I deal with it. But I think I don't think there's any one size fits all solution for death. I think whatever works for you works for you. It's like so I'm big into bodybuilding. People will ask me like, oh, what's your split? How do you what's the best split? How should I set up my workouts? And I always tell people like it doesn't really matter. Like the best split is what's going to keep you going to the gym. The best way to work out is the way that's going to keep you active and healthy. And I think death and dealing with it is very much the same way, where the best way to cope and the best way to handle it is the one that gets you through it. And obviously having like a good support system is like imperative to that. But at the end of the day, it's you, and you can kind of dictate your own. It's a journey. It's not a positive. It's not like a fun one, but it is a journey still. And so whatever gets you to the end of that path is I guess the best way to deal with that.
No, I think it's awesome. Very well said. And
or smoke crack.
Or smoke crack.
Or smoke crack. That's yeah. Actually, I'd try that first.
Thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, like Parker says, it's all about the power of positivity.
Woo!
Woo! Buzz, motherfucker.